You ready, Ronnie? Let's do this. Always goes down smooth. So, welcome to the quarantine edition of the Week 4 recap for Eliteness Liga, the greatest fantasy league there ever was or will be, littered with mostly slightly above average, some mediocre, and a few stellar fantasy football managers. I'm Don Burgundy. 2020 has been a hell of a year, bringing nothing but madness and chaos throughout, from the death of a legend in Kobe Bryant, to the coronavirus pandemic, to the social unrest associated with police brutality and the Black Lives Matter movement, to murder hornets that never actually swept the nation. And it can all be pinned to one event. Kevin Burke finally got over the hump and got to hoist the DeFranco 1 week before 2020 began. It was right in front of us with the writing on the wall that 2020 would be cursed. Gentlemen, it is up to us to dethrone Burke and bring order back to the world. Now, we have a great show ahead of us today, but before we get started, we must give congratulations to some of our newlyweds and recently engaged members, as some of Eliteness Liga's most desirable bachelors are dropping like flies. Congratulations to Myers and Mr. Jeffrey Bott, who both tied the knot this summer with their high school sweethearts. Jeffrey, we hope for your sake that your marriage with Caitlin goes better than your fantasy football marriage with Pierce. Commissioner Smedley and Fire Sale Sofo both got engaged over the quarantine as well, so congratulations to them. To all you gents. And Smedley, good luck with the results for your bar exam. Pretty soon Myers may have some competition as La Liga's resident lawyer. And to Poge, who sadly had to postpone his wedding, but it's only going to make the batch P and wedding that much better next year. Now that we got this bullshit out of the way, we can get back to football. While we still can, before the coronavirus continues spreading across the NFL like Smedley's butthole disease is spreading across the butthole division to his co-owner, Dave Stone. Wait a minute. This just in. We have a trade within the power division with Sofo and Odell Poops on Smeds sending Jarek McKinnon to Burke and Schmoogs Licks Brown Acres for Will Fuller. Well, it looks like you finally managed to get rid of Fuller, Burr. So that means everyone else, prepare for Burke to try and dump his Rams running backs on you. Not the kind of blockbuster you come to expect from Sofo, but the trade season has officially begun. Expect the fire sale to follow soon. Before we get to the matchups this week, I must note that it was another dominant showing from the power division, going 3-1 after beating up on each other over the first 3 weeks of the season, compared to the butthole division going 0-4 this week. The power division superiority is unquestioned, with 5 DeFrancos compared to 3 combined for the other 2 toilet divisions. And that leads us to our first matchup of Week 4, between the most accomplished manager in Eliteness Liga history, who has the highest winning percentage in league history, never missed the playoffs, and the only member to hoist the DeFranco more than once. The GOAT, David Spiller, put a thrashing on the league's most diseased buttholes. No matter how many curveballs 2020 tries to throw at us, one thing we can always count on is a damn good fantasy football team from David Spiller. After Stone confessed about his butthole problems, it made us ponder, is he just an amazing teammate trying to deflect some of the jokes and attention away from Smeds, and maybe improve the rapport and the morale of the team? Or is he jealous of all the attention Smedley's buttholes receive, and he wants the spotlight on himself instead? The Nick Chubb injury may have lost the week for Myers likes Brown Chubbs, but perhaps more importantly, it may have left the door open for Myers and Neiman to take control of the very weak butthole division. Speaking of Myers and Neiman, they lost an absolute heartbreaker to Genoda. After all the back and forth shit talk in their recaps, where the Butthole Boys were defeated by Dak gives Smeds a Hardman after both teams put up 133 points. Perhaps Smeds did get a hard-on after thinking of the agony Myers and Neiman went through after that defeat. To lose in that fashion by less than 1 point, after all that shit talk, there's no amount of butthole jokes that could alleviate the pain from that kind of loss for the Butthole Boys, where the Chiefs' defense put up 20 points due to COVID, and then making it even crazier, Ridley got shut out in the late game, so you were literally a sack away from victory. Myers and Neiman, how does it feel knowing that Garrett and Jake both won this week scoring 83 points? It's only 50 less than you guys put up. As for Genoda, same thing every year. Team looks great on paper, legitimate title contender, only to fall short in the playoffs. But he finally changed his team name this year. So could that finally change his fortunes and help him get over the hump to hoist the coveted DeFranco? Only time will tell. Speaking of getting over the hump, after winning the DeFranco last year, Burke leads the power division, yet again, after taking down Steve Smedley. Smeds licks Brown Acres, which could be the only thing saving the league from endless trade offers for Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers, took down Lee gives good Burkhead. But in reality, this week, it was Steve who gave some good Burkhead. To be honest, I was expecting a much more obnoxious Burke after finally winning the DeFranco. I guess marriage really does change you. The defending champ has some issues with his RB2 and a nagging hammy injury for Julio, so enjoy the Burkhead while you can, champ. As for Steve, another year and another disappointing fantasy football team. I mean, you're just too damn likable and such a good guy, so rather than rip on you, I'm just going to compliment the great job you and High Performance Systems did with our new epoxy floors for one of the buildings at the charity I work at, Inroads to Opportunities in Roselle. Damn fine work, Steve. Damn fine. Those floors look amazing. If you would like to make a positive difference in these tough times and donate to a great cause that helps adults with disabilities, then check out Inroads to Opportunities on their website to find resources to help you help or donate. Every little bit matters. Was that a more acceptable way to ask for money or investments than Harvitt's plan last year? Speaking of Harvitt, before we get to his matchup, we first have a word from another one of our sponsors. What if I told you a fantasy football partnership was a match made in heaven, but had nothing to do with fantasy football? What they lacked in fantasy football success, they more than made up for in butthole problems. How Kevin Smedley and Dave Stone became more than just co-owners in The Real Butthole Boys. To The Real Butthole Boys. Wow. It's amazing how closely the 30 for 30 people follow Eliteness Liga. Seems like they have a new gem every year for our wonderful league. I can't wait for this one. Speaking of waiting, that takes me to Harvitt, who got a lucky schedule win this week against Pierce and Jeffrey Bott. Jake, you really made us wait for you at the draft to draft that team? Now with Eckler going down, it looks like Jake's group of very stable geniuses is more likely to join Garrett for a punishment this year than compete for the DeFranco. As for Pierce and Jeffrey, another loss after putting up the least points for the week. They seem like they could be headed for more losses this year than the amount of Smeds' multiple Heinz quarters. Unlike the perfect pairing of The Real Butthole Boys, the Pierce-Jeffrey Bott experiment has not worked as the conflicting styles of the analytics versus the gut approach has not meshed over the past 2 years. We would love to have Pierce on the show to discuss the partnership and his subsequent demise. But we're having a little difficulties due to COVID. Pierce and Jeffrey need to figure something out quickly, or they also may be joining Garrett for some WNBA fun. After finishing in the gutter, Seabour has bounced back very nicely and looks poised to make a run. He prevented the Power Division sweep and got a much-needed schedule win after the Titans debacle with Henry, and now there's the possibility the Titans miss another week. Oh, the irony that Garrett was the most concerned about players missing time due to COVID, and now his bell cow has been screwed over. Luckily for Garrett, Kareem Hunt ascends to a top 5 running back with the Chubb injury to cushion the COVID blow and makes Garrett very dangerous down the stretch. I know all of you want to make jokes about Poge for being the butthole of the Power Division, but the one thing Poge has is the hardware. We can say it, but you can't. You can't touch this, even when he loses to Colin, Mrs. Kelsey. And speaking of Colin, who took down McD, I was starting to wonder if maybe he really did miss Kelsey. 3 QBs on the roster, getting engaged when he said he never would. Like, who is this imposter? But then he pulled the trigger and started the trade season. It's still him. Phew. Big win this week as Odell took the biggest of poops on Smeds this week. I thought it was usually the other way around, as Odell finally produced for Sofo. Does this give Colin a false sense of security? Or does it mean the fire sale is coming sooner rather than later? Another potential fire sale candidate is the man Odell pooped on, Mr. Mike McDonough and the Washington Redskins. Like the Washington Redskins, McD won week 1 and has reeled off 3 straight losses since. Making this loss even tougher for the Washington Redskins is that his team had a good week, while 2 of his division mates got wins scoring more than 20 less points than him. But hey, that's fantasy football. McD has some great names on the roster, especially now that they're getting healthy. But can this guy survive another loss? He's going to really have to pound the butthole division when he gets to that part of the schedule to have a chance at glory this year. Glory and the opportunity to hoist the DeFranco is what we're all chasing and striving for here in Elitist Liga. A quest that runs from the end of August to the end of December. A journey that hopefully leads to a worthy champion and brings order back to the world. As Elitist Liga goes, so does the rest of the world. Good luck to everyone, except for you, Burke, on your quest for the DeFranco. You stay rowdy, Elitist Liga. I'm Don Burgundy.